Welcome back, everybody, to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. We are live. This is the place where you learn how to attract an audience online, build influence, and get more ideal clients. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. We have a very special guest who's going to share how she's built a hyper-local business, building Superfans, and really finding an amazing community niche and leaning in and becoming known as the expert in that local community. So we're talking about Microfamous in a roundabout way, but this is not the Microfamous podcast. This is Real Estate Uncensored, and my esteemed co-host is in the co-pilot seat, Greg McDaniel, where you so belong. Greg, what's up today?
I deserve this seat. I won't let you take it from me, Matt. I don't care how much you try to steal my seat. I'm never leaving.
That's right.
Okay.
We're coming for you. We're coming for your guns. We're coming for your co-pilot seat. We're coming for it all.
Better not come for my check. Gosh damn it. Dude, I went for a run today. It's a pretty normal thing, but I tried a altitude training mask for the first time. It's like having a rope around your neck as you try to breathe. It's like a small slice of death for 3.5 miles. It is horrific.
It reminds me of that old Mitch Hedberg joke about when you're wearing a turtleneck, it feels like you're getting strangled by a really weak guy. I feel like that's what you just described, is that a really weak guy was just hanging out on your back, strangling you the whole time you're trying to run.
It was horrible, but you know what? I'm so glad to be here. Paige is here, and guys, she is no schlub. She got featured in the Wall Street Journal. Yeah, how badass is that right there? I mean, we only hang with the best, so I mean, we cannot wait to dive in deep with you. But Gina, you look extra bald today. Did you do something?
Listen, first off, let me say this. I'm proud to be here with you guys on the Joe Rogan podcast. This is amazing. Second, every time, you know what's weird is every time you say that to me, it's like one day where I haven't taken it to the wood. Like, this is the longest it's been in a week, and you're always like, I look extra bald. Maybe that's why, because there's no hair growing here, but there's some.
I don't know. Are you sure that the individual filaments of your hair are not amplifying the light that's bouncing off your head?
I don't know what you just said, but
I don't either.
No.
That's very technical.
All right.
But you know,
all right. Let's bring in our special guest, Paige. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. Thank you for joining the craziness, but we've got a lot of content to share because I love the way that you built up your business. We were fortunate to meet in person, and you shared a little bit about what you're doing, and I was so blown away that I had our team reach out right away and get you scheduled. So give us just kind of the 60-second bio, who you are, where you are, what you do.
Okay, so I live in Gig Harbor, Washington, a small little fishing town outside, about 40 minutes from Seattle, the coronavirus capital of the U.S. Well, at least where it started, not anymore. But I moved here 4 years ago. I knew one person. I have been a real estate agent for 3 years and was the #1 solo agent in my market last year after 2.5 years. So really focused. I've been an entrepreneur for 15 years. I started my first business at 23, and I sold that when I came up here to Washington, kind of on a whim. Bought my house almost sight unseen. So that's where my experience came from for the Wall Street Journal. That's all. But did build a very niche business from the start intentionally and said, I'm not going everywhere. I've got 3 kids and a husband that travels. So I needed to find a way to build intention within my business rather than just feel like I need to survive and burn out.
that is awesome. Now, what drew you to kind of think that mentality? You're just like, most people want to go big, you know, like they want to dominate everything. Like, nah, bro, I want to kind of niche down. I want to do my thing. So most agents, like their brains are starting to like crack up. They're like, niche, no, domination, top agent. You're like, nah, I want to niche it. So what led that shift? How'd you get there?
Well, I mean, I had built businesses before and knew that you can't be everything to everyone for your marketing to resonate. So if I was going to scale quickly, I wanted to do 30 houses a year. That's a big enough business for me. And that was my goal. And I was like, Gig Harbor seems like a big enough area to have 30 people like me, enough to do business with me. So if I really looked at how do I concentrate all my efforts on saturating a market where I didn't know anybody, so it's brand new, and people have lived here forever. So at one point, people thought I grew up here. And that's how deep I went from the very beginning. I do in my marketing, or if you looked at my website, Gig Harbor, Port Orchard, and Bremerton, those are the 3 cities that it says I serve. And so when I very first started, I would take business in Bremerton and repurpose all my marketing dollars back into Gig Harbor. So even though I would go outside of my zone of happiness, that's what I call it, I would repurpose all that money back into my marketing, very focused on the area that I want to be known for. So it was really intentional, and I didn't want to be that real estate agent that was like, buy or sell with me with my arms crossed, and it wouldn't land with anybody. So
Love it.
yeah.
And by the way, so what's the size of Gig Harbor approximately?
The city of Gig Harbor is 8,000. Gig Harbor unincorporated is about 40,000. So if I wanted to go really deep, I would be like, I only want to serve my neighborhood, which is 780. There's enough business here for that. Average price point in Gig Harbor is 600,000. So 30 transactions a year. I ended up in 2019 getting to 48 transactions. And the reason why I could do more was because my area was so small. I could literally do more in the same amount of time, because I cut down my commute. I cut down those inspection drives, all of that kind of stuff, and just rein it in. Love
it. All right. Many questions. Before I get to mine, Greg, Gene, anything you want to jump in first?
No, well, I'm digging the fact that Gene's muted. I dig the fact that you know exactly what you're doing, and you're unapologetic about it. And when someone challenges you, you're immediately, it's like, dude, this is my life. This is the way I want to live. This is how I want to be seen. Most people are so concerned with how they're seen. You're actually pushing that narrative ahead of any other conversation. You're like, dude, this is me. Take it or leave it. I'm not going to be the agent.
People will be like, oh, do you know this person? I spent most of my time and background in the marketing side. So that's why I go to social media marketing world. I've been to one industry event where I was a speaker at it. Cool. So I'm just not, I don't follow a lot of agents, because I knew being new to my area and being new to the industry that I was going to have imposter syndrome. I was going to have that, who does this girl think she is, to be showing up on stories and talking about market stats like a boss in the area where there's veterans, that have been here since the beginning of time. And there's, some girl thinks that she can build a business on Instagram. So I really took the time to unfollow and only look at the accounts and the people that are inspiring versus the haters, because it is a scarcity industry, and I really roll with an abundance mindset. So there's enough business for everybody, and my business doesn't have to look like theirs. But if you look at the numbers for Gig Harbor, I'm not doing too bad.
I love the modesty there, and because the one thing I get from you right here is that you walk with power, and and I really respect that, because, like you said, there's a scarcity mindset, and you exude nothing of that. You're just like, dude, everyone's got enough business. Let's just roll. Let's hang out. Let's grow businesses together. Let's my client meet your client. And when you came from the marketing side of the world, and when you said that, I got curious about it, because a lot of agents, they think they know how to market. But they don't. And, what did you do to set yourself apart so that people would gravitate towards you, since you have such a big background in marketing?
Well, niching down. So step one is become known for something. Mm-hmm. Become known for, I planted my flag and said, I am going to work in Gig Harbor, and I want to be the top agent in Gig Harbor. So not the top agent everywhere, just in Gig Harbor. So I look at, how am I doing enough business within this area to continue to be a top agent, or am I spreading myself too thin? And then, so that was intentional in my marketing. And then my daughter got sick back in 2018, and we didn't know what was wrong with her. And I was working with a lot of listings at that time. And I realized, if I want to protect my time, listings cost a little bit more money. I do a lot of work to make sure that, they look good online, no matter what, that type of thing. And so I said, I want to protect my time. So I'm going to focus just on listings. I'll still take buyers, but I'm going to be more intentional with the business that I'm attracting. So it's an attraction-based mentality, that the runway takes a little bit longer, but the foundation is deep. So it's hard for people to forget somebody who has woven themselves into the fabric of the community through service and value and being a good human. So, and that's what, Instagram stories, all that kind of stuff. Like, people know who I am. I didn't apologize for driving a minivan for the first, 18 months of my business. It rolled it into my branding. It was, a little sign outside that said hashtag partner with Paige, mom of 3. So, and just owned it. Right. Like,
I love that you rolled the minivan hardcore. My girlfriend and I were watching a TV show the other day, and then we had a minivan with 1,000 horsepower in it. She's like, "Would you roll that minivan?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I would." Are you kidding me? I'll roll 1,000 horsepower mom van. Let's do this. Matt would too. I mean, the reason Matt would do it because he's got to feed these little guys. I mean, he can't fit in anything else.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's just so hard to get him into something bigger.
Oh my God.
Queued up. Goodness. Yeah, those are my kids. They look just like me. I mean, how can you not see the family resemblance? Okay. Let's talk about Instagram, because you mentioned it that you're gonna get a little hate, and also it's hard for people to believe. And I think if you told anyone that you can be a top agent in a city of like under 10,000 people, I don't think they believe you at all. Then they definitely wouldn't believe you unless you're going in straight to Zillow or online lead gen and just dropping $2,000 a month, or getting on the radio or something and just blanketing the airwaves. And you've done none of those things, right? You went straight to social media. So tell me a little bit about how does the flow look like in terms of I want to get to the content that you're putting out on Instagram in a second, but what do the conversations look like, and how are you converting the conversations that they're generating into appointments? What do the conversations look like?
Okay, so the magic in the direct message, amazing. I do a lot of voice texting back.
Love it.
Mark Schaefer was there. We sat down. He's been so inspirational in my business about the most human company wins. So when you can get on video, as a mom of 3 kids, I could not be at every Rotary Club meeting or chamber meeting or happy hour. And I needed to find a way where I could show up consistently over and over. So in 2017, I said, I'm going to show up on Instagram stories every single day. So I would go on Instagram stories and I would say, here is the Seacliff neighborhood. This is why I love this neighborhood so much. Take a look at Mount Rainier. She's gorgeous. She's out today. And you'd see a little bit of, whatever's going on in my life then, talk about the process. I really set out, especially as a new agent, any question that I had personally as a new agent, I said that out loud to the buyers and sellers in an empowering way. So instead of keeping all of our information to ourselves, I told everybody what they needed to know to buy or sell. I didn't say pick me. I said, when you pick an agent, doesn't have to be me, make sure you consider somebody that's super local. How do you make sure that you're not leaving money on the table? How do you make sure you're getting the most money for your house? When we look at pain points of right now with COVID, how do we keep them healthy? How do we keep them safe? And then how do we make sure that we keep their financial health and really look at like the basic human needs? So my content was around teaching buyers and sellers how to do this. And so all the conversations that I would get around comments and engagement, I didn't care about likes. I don't have like the 10,000 likes on my or 10,000 followers. I have 1,500, and I could probably take out the 500 agents that follow me and still be okay with my 1,000 real estate people. Like, how many people do you need to have as Superfans to buy and sell houses if you only want to do 48 a year, or 25 million in business?
We had a client. We had a guest come on the show on Microfamous. I mean, Real Estate Uncensored. I mean, Joe Rogan. I mean, I don't know what show I'm on, but Matt's shaking his head. But I mean, we had a guy come on and he said that if you were Tom Cruise famous to 50 people, you could have a 7-figure business a year. And it's incredibly refreshing to hear someone as successful as you, come in and say that. When you get shown on the Wall Street Journal, you guys, that's no joke. But she wasn't hunting it out, right? She's just doing the best job for her clients. And I love how you're refining yourself down. You're like, I'm at 1,500. I can get rid of those 500 fools. I'd be down with my 1,000 peeps, and keep going. But if you went down to 500 people, got rid of the 1,000, and you really drilled in and you became hyper personal with each one of those people.
Exactly.
Holy shit, are you kidding me? Talk about a value add benefit, and your engagement will be through the roof because the people actually know you instead of going out and buying the likes and buying the followers and stuff like that. There's a lot of different strategies when it comes to doing Instagram, and I know a couple of folks that they just, holy macaroni, man, they had so many stories. Like, it's exhausting to just look at their stories. And you don't take that approach. You say, I'm going to do 1 or 2, right? I'm just going to be there every single day. Your consistency is key.
But not oppressive. I mean, I'm not desperate for attention. I'm attracting. So if you want to go even further, then on top, like, fine, I want to work with Gig Harbor, but I don't want to work with everybody in Gig Harbor. I want to work with somebody who's the move-up buyer between 6 and 900,000. She probably used to work, but is maybe she has a side hustle, but she's raising kids. Her husband's awesome. He respects her decision. So I work with a lot of women that are decision makers in their household that hire me. They're really sensitive about their time, so they want somebody who's connected to people in the audience. And so when I show up on Instagram, I'm talking to her. I care about serving the girlfriend that's on the other side of the camera that wants to have, wine or a coffee chat, or, appreciates my efforts or lack thereof of fake homeschooling. And can resonate with that, right? Like, I know that she's probably not going to want showings before 11 and stuff like that. So when people are like, I don't know how to do video or something like that, who are you talking to? And if you know who you're talking to, you can show up and just serve that one person.
Yeah. So, Gene, I'm going to toss it to you, as I always do. So Paige comes to you and goes, Gene, I want you to be my marketer. I don't want to be, famous to everybody. I want these people to know me. How would you execute?
So you saw me taking notes, right? Like, I've been quiet and muted because I'm taking notes. Like, the confidence level, the vulnerability, the perseverance, and the consistency are huge. And I heard, before she mentioned any of those words, I felt that. Like, I think a word that came to my head, which is totally ridiculous, but it makes sense, is momfidence. Like, not confidence, but momfidence, right? You're rocking the minivan. You're doing the schooling with the kids. You're talking about your kids and the health issues you had. That's vulnerability. And I would say to you, honestly, like, I would say I would continue to do exactly what you're doing, except let's 2x it. Maybe we don't 10x it, but people are clearly telling you that they like what it is that you're delivering to them. And so why not deliver more? And I don't think you need to be aggressive. I don't mean it that way. I just mean, I think you're probably finding in your insights and your data that people are really paying attention, and the ones that are paying attention with, like, fervently. They're there, and they're there every day. And we talked about this last week. When you look at an Instagram story, if you do 5 of them, right? Maybe your first one has 800 people that watched it, and then the next one has 600, and then 400, and then 200, and then 100. Well, there's 100 people there that just told you they're watching everything you do. So why not do it 6 and 7 times and nail it down to the final 20, and you can see that. And then maybe that's your coffee circle, or maybe that's your wine circle. Right. So people are, I love the confidence level. I love the fact that you're like, look, I'm not working with everybody. I think that's empowering. And I think that's attractive, and people are coming to you because of those things.
I will, for the agents that are like, oh, how could she say no to business, or be more intentional about how I build my business? What I did do very specifically is put a line item in my budget when I created my business plan and said, I want referrals. So $30,000 a year in referrals, which means I have to be intentional about outsourcing people who weren't a good fit from a personality standpoint, which I tend not to get a lot of that anyway, but definitely outside my zone of happiness. So in my marketing, when I say I work Gig Harbor, Port Orchard, and Bremerton, anybody outside of that, I know all the best agents. So hit me up if you're looking outside of my area. I've got you covered across the country. And that way I'm attracting the invitation to refer out business. And so that was also an awesome passive income option that I had to get intentional to not be nervous about giving that away by putting it on paper.
That's interesting. That we always talk about when you want something to come into reality, you take it out of your head, you put it onto paper, because then it becomes tangible. It becomes a real thing that you're going to be focusing on, right?
Yeah. And the type A's like us, we like a goal.
I think most of us have this goal tonight, but who knows? We never know.
For those of you listening who can't see the ridiculous photographs Greg is throwing up on the screen, that was wine. You got to remember, Greg. People listening cannot see your ridiculousness that's happening. So
yes, but this is Matt's version of wine right here, and this is all kinds of coffee and espressos.
Right.
But we all
and the homeschooling moms are putting Baileys in that at 10, and it's okay.
Hell to the yes.
That's right.
Yeah. Hey, you know what else I noticed too? I thought this was tricky what she did. She said, I want to partner up with the moms who probably don't want to go see houses before 11, which in my mind makes me think, well, then I don't have to do anything before 11 either. So that's fucking awesome. I mean, right?
I got lives to do. And so I am, my social media game is very consistent. I choose one thing at a time to implement consistently. So in 2019, I implemented market stats live every Wednesday, and I repurpose all that content. So that'll roll into my emails.
Nice.
Matt, you had asked about if you went to my website, askpaigeschulte.com, I do not have Instagram or Facebook on my website. All the time I spend on social media, I never want them to go back into that rabbit hole once I get them off of that. So my goal is to get their email address. At the end of the day, I want their email address. I want to be able to nurture that relationship. And eventually, we end up being besties, right? So instead of agents that want to come on too strong and go all the way.
Right. Let's go back to the thing that you said, which I think most people would go, what the heck now? What's happening? I only implement one thing at a time in my business. So clearly you're a crazy person, because the right thing to do is to implement 17 new things in your business and get none of them done. So why? Let's talk about that approach, and how do you stay focused so you're not falling prey to the temptation to try to implement too many things at once? And then how do you decide what is that one thing, and what's the period of time, right? Like when you say you're going to implement one thing, how long do you stay focused on that one thing before you go on to the next thing?
I like a year, to be honest. I think that a long-term business, I ran my first business for 10 years and it was super successful, and everything that we did, I think the adage is 6 months to give anything. Zillow will tell you everything takes 6 months, all of that. The lifetime of a customer in real estate, because it's not as often, I think, is a longer nurture sequence than anybody wants to believe. But I like to give it a year. I'm going to roll into Facebook Lives because that's what everybody told us to do back in 2019. And so I got intentional with that. It was helpful for me to time block that and block it out in my day and say, every Wednesday at 11, I can't schedule anything there. I will show up for my people in this space. Posting on Instagram once a day. And then it just becomes part of your workflow. You've figured out how to have this balance of create content first and then consume, so that you are proactively putting something out into the world. I do try to do 3 things to move my business forward a week and focus on 3 main things. And, we have client follow-up and some of the busy work that happens on a regular basis. But if I can do 3 things that's going to keep my brand growing without me, then I've accomplished staying relevant.
Love it. With that, a question, because this is something for my own personal interest. I kind of like you, Paige. I have made a decision that as much as I, for whatever reason, I didn't do it, I'm going to be showing up every day for 1 to 3 Instagram. And then I repurpose that content directly over to Facebook stories to be top of mind, to stay relevant, right? And to do something that's a little bit different. Like I'm getting my chubby ass out and I'm doing some, I call it yogging. Other people call it running. I jog very slowly. My girlfriend, she's hilarious. She actually will speed walk next to me as I run. She's like, "Is this your running?" And I'm like, "Shut up."
So good.
but I'm out there and I consistently kind of document my day, being very open and vulnerable. Like, oh, I really don't want to fucking do this right now. I'm dying. Like, I'm dying. Are you doing stuff like that vulnerability wise, or you do more business centric posts so that people consistently see you in the light of doing business or as a human?
So definitely way more human. And part of that is because I know my audience so well. I know that she wants to see the real estate agent unplugged. The best behind the scenes that I ever did was, so people are, how do you do all the things, blah, blah, blah. Well, I really like being an entrepreneur and being a business owner. And I can operate on a what is that, Energizer Bunny level when it comes to the business side. But how do I do all the things with being a mom? I suck at the domestic stuff. I'm awful. And so when I have a lot of, course students and stuff like that for a side hustle that I have. And in the coronavirus, when it first started, I said, you guys, does anybody else feel like this? Do they have a dog that's losing their shit over another Amazon delivery? Do they have kids that are having PE on the couch and jumping up and down? And then I was like, I got to show you the worst of it. It's not even coronavirus related. My laundry is like insane. It's so ridiculous. And in the stories, it was actually like from December, my suitcase had exploded. I went to Costa Rica and I never unpacked it. And this was March. And people were like, thank God to see the real side. And like the number of direct messages I got that were like, oh my gosh, me too. I know how you feel. Cause it's like 7 desks of shit everywhere from the kids. And then, it's not my strong suit. I don't cook. I eat 7 burritos a week. I will get a Peloton as soon as they start delivering again.
Nice.
So
I love it. You know what? A lot of the people out there right now, that are homeschooling folks, and they're really kind of going through a hard time. I think a lot of people don't understand how much stress that really puts on a lot of folks. I think this is good. It represents a really good image of this. And this is Mary Poppins on day 1, day 5. She's an alcoholic, just because it's absolutely
right.
So
good.
It's a full-time job, but going back to Gina's just literally losing his marbles over there.
I'm just looking at Matt's face. I can't tell if he smells shit right now or if he's just reacting to your posts.
Reacting to my post, 100%. 100%.
Awesome.
But I mean, you consistently, Paige, with all the things that are going on, in all seriousness, you're staying consistent with what your business plan has laid out. And you are executing, and you're not deviating. You're not going, oh my gosh, like the world just took a giant shit on me, but I can't do what I wrote out, and so I'm going to write off 2020. You're like, no, I'm sticking to my business plan. I'm sticking to what my promises are, because a couple of things. One, you've made a promise subconsciously and emotionally to the people who have invested into you, to follow you and everything else. So you'd be doing a massive disservice if you decided just to write off the rest of the year and just focus on you and, do whatever you would do otherwise. But I commend you for that, because a lot of people have freaked out, lost their marbles, thrown everything into the garbage fire as they lit it up and burned it to the ground.
I don't want your COVID flyers anyway. Just kidding.
Yeah. God, take your germs and God, go away.
I mean, everybody, social media is lame, whatever. But now who's winning? I mean, now we're not afraid to. I did a live StreamYard live stream of an open house last week. It's a little tricky. There's some workarounds because I can't see the comments on my phone when I invite myself as a guest. But it's the ability for us to adapt so well as entrepreneurs. And I think that when we talk about what do you need to be successful in real estate? Well, first of all, you have to think like an entrepreneur. You have to understand that you just started a business for $2,000, right? So training that type of mindset to say, I can do hard things.
That's an awesome
COVID,
mindset.
That's hard.
It is hard. I did an interview on another podcast yesterday, and the host was like, how can you be so positive? I'm like, it's a decision. I'm making a decision to be positive and look through this thing and go, there's a super large opportunity here. Like I'm executing with a gentleman, a guy named Jake, and his company. And what he's putting out there is just like, it's next level awesome, prospecting stuff. And so I didn't sit there and go, oh, woe is me. I can't do calls anymore. I can't do door knocking anymore. You're like, all right, cool. I'm going to find a workaround. I'm going to put it out into the universe, and it's just going to come back to me. You get what you focus on, right?
Right. Yep. What you focus on expands. And action creates clarity, all of those type of things. If I could get a tattoo, it'd be action is the antidote to fear. Like those are the type of things that if you take action on something and realize, okay, this isn't that hard. I didn't die. I unfollowed a few people, maybe. That's all.
What do you mean if you could get a tattoo? What do you
Haters
mean?
to the left.
Oh, man, you got to get tattoos. Matt's covered in them. I'm covered in them. I mean, he's going for his full bodysuit. I mean, when does that get complete, Matt?
Yeah, that's sometime next week. I'll have that finished, Greg. Sure.
So wait, I came up with an idea while Paige was talking.
Lay it on us.
It's kind of weird how it happened, but so if you go to Paige's website and click on the Gig Harbor tab, there's a video that plays, right? And the video was about a minute and a half, and it looks like it's like you can dive in and get drone shots of the area and where they're at. Well, while I was watching the video, there's music playing in the background, and Paige was talking, and I was like, "This is soothing. Like there's something about this combination that makes me feel comfortable," and I would listen to it. And so, what I think you should do, this is just me spouting.
Yeah,
you got to start looking into Alexa skills. Use that backdrop of music with you giving a tip every week and drop it on Alexa.
Okay, I'm in. I'll do it.
I would listen, and I don't live anywhere near Gig Harbor.
I do get a lot of people that will move. That people have come up from LA. That's a lot of the conversations are like, I'm going to move there. I walked them through. If one of my blogs is where to take a visitor to Gig Harbor, like how to show her in her best light as a city. And it was my first experience there, and walking them through these postcard views. It feels weird to live in a place that's so beautiful, but because it doesn't feel real. You're like, this is a place where you go on vacation and you don't actually get to live here, but we do. So we're lucky.
And that's one of the things, like I'm doubling down on YouTube right now. I'm doing a ton of videos, all SEO and keyword centric, things that people are actually searching for. I'm actually launching those. I'm improving those actually today. But the thing is that I love that you're leveraging all the tools at your fingertips. You're not dismissing them. And so many people dismiss. I mean, we've talked about this 100,000 times on the show. Right now, this is the greatest time in the history of the world to be alive. Yes, there's Corona. Fuck you, Corona, by the way. But, back to reality, you have Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitch.
Are you guys doing TikTok? We need to have a real conversation here for a minute.
I watch TikTok. Does that count? I'm trying to. I just don't want to learn those stupid dances.
It's tough. I got 3 of them up there. 2 of them are just crap. One is actually pretty epic. Right. But yeah, I can't. I just can't do it. I just feel like I'm 45 and I'm staring at kids that are 12.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Permission to not do all the things.
Yeah.
Because I never got on the Snapchat. I never got on the Snapchat train. Not going to do that either.
When you get on something and you're sitting there and you actually actively think, I wish somebody would drop a brick on my face right now. Like, I wish somebody would drop a vehicle on my head.
That's how I feel when people share their TikTok stories into Instagram and I have to skip past them. That's
okay.
That brick sensation is exactly how I feel.
Right.
All those things, yes.
All those things.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I think there's we're about to go through over the next however many years. We're about to see a whole bunch of apps come out that are not for us. Right. They're for the next generation, and they are specialized, and they don't give you an ideal platform to share knowledge or expertise. They don't. Right. It's nearly impossible to use them in a way that doesn't lower your credibility. And that's what I feel like TikTok does for a lot of people. It's one thing if your brand is playful and fun, but you're talking about, an agent is somebody who's handling somebody's most likely their biggest investment every 7 years. They don't know who you are. And TikTok is, man, it's really hard. That's not to say it won't evolve, but at least for now, in terms of like going there because something will get attention, because you can grab attention there theoretically, but it's still hard. You can't, if you have to do something to grab attention, but you have to grab the attention by doing something that makes you look less credible, then you just shot yourself in the foot. So that's the part that I don't like about now. Like I said, I leave it open to interpretation, because somebody may figure out how to use TikTok in a way that doesn't lower your credibility, but I have yet to see it.
Well, you know, Alyssa, who was on our show this year in the beginning, if you go to TikTok and you type in hashtag or search color my credit, you know, she's doing a lot of really good work on there right now. And she talks about mortgages and loans, and she has millions of views. She gets a couple 100,000 views on some of her videos, and she is influencing people, but she's doing it in a different way and doing it creatively. She's not shaking her ass out there in the mini skirt. She's, you know, using the words on the screen and pointing to them and walking through the real life scenarios. And you can do hashtag over 30, hashtag over 40, hashtag over 50 in TikTok and hit the right audiences versus the 15-year-olds who are shaking their shit on the beach, which, you know, they're not going to buy anything anyways. What the fuck are we watching them for? But I mean, you can leverage it. And I agree with you, Matt. If it's done wrong, it does decrease your credibility. But if you do it professionally, this is the interesting thing. If you do it professionally, what you're really doing is the younger generation that's watching you, right? They are going to learn something. Then they're going to tell mom and dad, hey, mom and dad, you need to talk to Gene, Matt, Greg, Paige. Whatever.
Well, yes. And the thing to keep in mind about Alyssa's brand, her brand, Color My Credit, like taking the concepts of credit and like mixing them with a brand that's like a Crayola. It's like crayon based. Like she's taking something that's stuffy and dry and injecting a massive dose of playfulness into it to offset a very dry subject. Right. So like TikTok, that's one of those rare instances where TikTok fits like hand in glove with her whole branding strategy. Like most people are not that smart to figure out that their brand strategy goes with the platform.
I'm wondering if you could do so. I work a lot directly with the local business owners in the area. So I'm wondering if the only way that it would work for me, just because I am totally fine with saying I'm too old for Snapchat and I'm too old for TikTok. But if we could do it, how could we leverage the platform to sell Gig Harbor? I work with really closely with around 34 of the local businesses. I wrote a book about Gig Harbor. I was like, I'm going to write a coffee table book about Gig Harbor and use it as a lead magnet and all that kind of stuff, and be the agent that wrote a book, because something so good about saying it whenever you drop it in there. You're like, I wrote the book on Gig Harbor. It's ridiculous. I mean, there's some things that you just do that are so stupid. But that was my one thing in 2018. It was my one thing was to create this. And then I took everything inside the book, created a YouTube video. There's a blog on it. It's a Facebook post. It's an IGTV. I repurposed every single ounce of content in there. But if you could get, you know, I only use one hashtag or two hashtags on Instagram at any given moment. That's it. Gig Harbor real estate agent. Sometimes if I'm working in Port Orchard and Bremerton, I'm scaling back on all of that right now. Those are only referrals or only sellers. But I'm not the 30 hashtag user, because I don't want to attract the wackos and the weirdos and anything that doesn't relate to my brand, which is Gig Harbor. So I was thinking for TikTok, maybe you could do something fun around the local business owners and using as a platform for them, since they probably will never figure it out. That's a lot of the things that, as you become this micro influencer basically in your area, you start to be a teacher in some of this too for the local entrepreneurs. And because I just have such a soft spot for the entrepreneurs in the area, a lot of them have been on my Instagram doing IG lives during coronavirus, talking about how their business has changed, how they're serving the community and using my platform to get to them. But then while also on Instagram Live, I'm in front of their audience too. So it's a good way for me to show up on another platform within an audience that I want to be in front of.
Yeah. And I think if like going back to what you said about TikTok and using it to spread the word about Gig Harbor. If you led the way and you said to the city, like, I want to start basically the unofficial official TikTok channel for the city, and I'll get us started. You know what I'm saying? And then
Right.
you become just one of the content creators and it's not about your personal brand.
Right.
Then I could see that working, because then you get everybody else involved in helping promote it. And because you're not asking them to help promote my brand.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that, to me, that makes sense. And that's what's good about it. I think this is one thing that agents a lot of times miss out on, this concept, which is if you specialize in an area or you specialize in a niche, and you are the number one in that space, you don't have to talk about yourself. It's exactly like what you said. You can promote the niche or the local community that you're in, and all the business flows to you, the majority of it, because you own all the best relationships. You already you have the relationships with the business owners, and you're the one that comes to mind first. So you don't have to talk about yourself. You can sell the local community. You can sell the local business owners. You can sell everything else but yourself, as long as you claim that leadership position.
Right.
And people way miss that strategy and go overboard talking about themselves and talking about what makes them different, them unique, all because they're just afraid to effectively pick an area and just stick with it. There's so much fear around that for whatever reason. That if that's one thing I wish I could drive home to more agents, it's you have way more to fear by not being memorable.
Right. And if you talk to somebody who's been in the business for a really long time and you talk about the joy of the business, working with soul-sucking clients or driving forever to go get your $20,000 commission check, the burnout ratio, the lifestyle, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
This is a challenging business, with emotions, a lot of things that we can't control as type A personalities. So control the way you build your business, and you'll get more momentum and more joy out of being more intentional. I don't know. It's like, it's so ingrained in how I do things anyway that I can't even explain it until people experience it. And they're like, oh my gosh, I have all of this forward momentum because I actually can see that I'm building something real around myself as a brand.
Yep.
It's so weird how sometimes when you don't overthink things, it gets to be somewhat of a process and smooth. No, I like what she said there, like being intentional and being afraid of not making $8 million a year when in fact you're never going to make $8 million anyway. So why wouldn't you just be happy making $100K, staying in your space and working 12 hours a week? Can I do something here? I'd like to make a formal apology because this TikTok conversation just shed some light on where I'm failing in life. Can I do that?
Enlighten us.
Is this confession time with Gene, the evil bald ninja?
No, I just want to apologize to my 15 and 12-year-old daughter. And Dad is very, very sorry that he's turned into your grandfather. And here's what I realized. That conversation that you guys just had between, it was like my mom and my dad. That's not music. That's crap. When I would bring home my Public Enemy and Eric B. and Rakim tapes. And my mom would go, oh, Gene, that's just what the kids are listening to. Like, I've officially turned into my father with this TikTok thing. It makes me crazy. I curse at people just because, and I realize I'm actually old in my father. So I'm sorry.
Well, see, the key is to be like me, where I was way like my dad when I was 8 years old. So I just started being old. Like however you think that Clint Eastwood feels about people now, I felt like that about people when I was 8. So I just skipped right to the mentality of get off my lawn right away. I find it's a huge time saver.
Oh,
that's all I'm saying. It's a huge time saver.
He's not kidding, guys. When Matt and I travel the world doing speaking and stuff, he's like a 70-year-old curmudgeon in like a 45-year-old body. It's insane.
First of all, how dare you?
I feel lucky that we met, Matt, considering we were out so late.
I was going to say you are very lucky because I totally wanted to bail like an hour and a half before we met. Yes, I would have been back in the hotel room if I had an option.
Wait,
okay,
hey, you met him out when it was after dusk.
Both of us.
That's amazing.
I know.
All of the introvert-y online entrepreneurs that really prefer behind the computer screen.
Well, and then there's Mark Schaefer, who is at home like with 5,000 people. That guy is happy as a clam the more people he's around. Yeah, right. I wish I was more like that sometimes, but that's why we have the world of podcasting. It's fantastic because I can talk to you, but you're not anywhere near me. It's fantastic. Like Greg, I don't have to worry about Greg being anywhere in my personal space. It's fantastic.
I don't have to smell you.
All right, let's do this. Let's finish real quick with a round of how do we connect with you. So Paige, give us the website, give us the Instagram handle.
Paige's Gig, PAIGESGIG on Instagram.
Okay.
That's also my blog name. And my website is askpaigeschulte.com. I don't know.
How about this? What about a book? I mean, come
That's
on
not
now.
No, that's not me.
Oh,
Close
damn
but
it.
no cigar, Greg.
It's the only
was
book
still-
I'm going to write.
There we go.
Damn it! I was hunting the.
I don't
the
sell
first
that,
one.
by the way. I'm not promoting something you can buy.
All right,
Yeah,
you know what? Disregard the book. I done messed up. My
That's
bad.
right. All right. And then, Gene, how do people connect with you?
Just like always, get to Genvelope, as people are saying. Genvelope, also known as GeneVolpe.com.
Genvelope.
I get that all the
That's
time. man.
awesome. That's awesome. I love it. That's hilarious. All right. So, and people should contact you because if they want, like Paige, you talked about repurposing content. We talked about your lives, become your emails, become your blog posts, become all that stuff. Like that's part of what Gene does. And if people aren't like, if people are listening to that going, man, I wish I could do that, but I don't have somebody to do all the stuff. Like I can record the video or I can do the live, but I can't do the behind the scenes stuff. Like
Right.
that's when people should reach out to Gene. Because as you know, like none of that stuff is easy. And each of those is a skill that has to be learned. And I love how you implemented just one thing at a time. So now you can run it as a system and it doesn't take over your life. But if somebody tried to step in and just goes, I want to do what Paige does, like it's going to take them 4 or 5 hours a day to do what probably takes you an hour or less.
Well, if you're smart, you outsource the things. So we'll dive into this for a second. You look at your cost per hour, calculate that based on what you're going to make for $500 an hour. If you can outsource it for less, then you should stay in your zone of genius in your business, just like you stay in your zone of happiness as you build it. Have Gene take care of project-based solutions like that you can be the face of it. You can create the content. Gene gets it out for you. I absolutely 100% subscribe to that. And that helps be able to do all the things. And if you have project-based businesses like that, you're not bringing on an employee if you don't feel like you're ready for it. But it is how you can scale quickly, is outsource the things that you don't like doing.
So true. Speaking of $500 an hour, Greg, what's the best way for people to reach out to you and get on your hallowed calendar and potentially even pay you to coach them on how to make phone calls? Perish the thought.
Sure, yeah, more screen time with McDaniel. That's what everybody needs. But
Well said.
thank you, Gene. I appreciate that. Self-promotion is my niche in life. Guys, go ahead and DM me on Facebook and send me a message there. You can send me a video or a voice or just a text. Either any of those three would be fine. Or as always, you guys can call me 925-915-1978 and let's get some time. Let's talk about how I no longer want to be this man and I'm going to be continuing to run and get back into better shape. So, Matt, with that being said, I do believe you have something that you want to give everybody, right?
I do.
Yeah, it's that.
Oh, the book. Oh, sorry. Okay.
What were you thinking about, sicko?
Like, crap, did I say I was going to do a lead magnet or something? Okay. Anyway, no. Yes, go get the book for free. Microfamousbook.com is free. If you cover the shipping, I cover the cost of the book. We'll get it into your hands. It ships typically within 24 to 48 hours. So we have it in your hands as quickly as possible. You can also go check out the Microfamous podcast, where I interview fantastic folks who are on that journey to becoming microfamous, or they already are, and they're making their next big move. So if you want inspiring stories as well as the strategy behind how to do that, you should check that out. And inspired by Paige's website, I shall be picking the color of the bow that we shall be wrapping around today's episode, Greg. And that color is a lovely seafoam green.
I love seafoam. It is my fave. Well, you know what? I'm glad that we picked that color because it makes Paige happy, which makes Matt happy, which makes me happy, which makes Gene happy. So, Paige, you are the one that blessed all of us. So, thank you for being here.
Thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it.
It is absolutely our pleasure. You guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Make sure you guys go to iTunes or your favorite podcasting app. I want you guys to give us a 5-star, not a 2-star. Give us a 5-star. That helps us get in front of more people in a shorter amount of time so we can help and influence more people. When you guys like this show, please make sure you tag Paige and just let her know how awesome she is. And Matt, you're a legend. Gene, you're the bald ninja. Paige, you're just a beauty to be around. Thank you for bringing your power to the show today. And you know what, guys? Peace out, ninjas. We're gone.